Move on. Off.
No.
We are on our way.
What's going on?
Manning siege equipment.
That's a march and no mistake.
That's like the one line I know.
I had
I
a,
repeat it all the time.
Yes.
I had a good friend in high school whose name was Zach Manning, and he was a bit of a pyro.
Mm-hmm.
And so, any time I heard that line, I'm like, yep,
siege
Manning siege equipment.
He was launching them fireballs. How's our audio looking? I think we're looking good.
Are we looking good? The question is, are we sounding good?
Right.
Because this is, after all, a podcast.
Are we audibly sounding and looking good?
I don't know, maybe we should check it.
All right. All the levels are within the range. We're in
Cool.
good shape.
Okay.
I'll trust you this
Happy
time.
Easter. I think we said Happy Easter last time, but I think
No,
this
we
is-
didn't. We haven't. I
Or
don't
did
think
we say like this will come out? No, it didn't. Happy Easter.
Happy Easter.
Happy Easter.
The Lord is truly risen.
We are recording this during Easter and well within, and you will be listening to this also well past Easter. So,
Well, within
past?
the Easter season. We
well,
could
yeah,
be listening to
the
it
Easter
past.
Sunday, I should say.
Okay.
Yeah.
So,
Or maybe you won't. Who knows? Maybe you
who knows,
discover
maybe
this,
it'll be Easter of next
you know,
year.
a few months from now. And
Hello to the future. Do they have flying cars yet?
I don't think. That's
I
gonna
think they
happen.
thought they were gonna by now, and the fact that we're nowhere near that is.
Yeah, no. It was an
people
overestimation.
realized
Is
that
it-
actually maybe this isn't as good of an idea as we thought it would be.
I think SAO was like 2025, the futuristic year
okay.
that all began.
Gotcha. The flying cars. I don't remember flying cars in that
No,
show.
but
No,
the
but
future tech was like the nerve gear stuff.
Oh.
I'm just saying, like, the year is upon us that certain things have decided was futuristic enough to have technology like that.
What was when does Logan take place? Was it like 2030s?
30 something, yeah.
Okay, so we're not quite there yet.
Which that was actually pretty conservative with only having like self-driving trucks and
Yeah.
bioengineering.
Which actually, to me, if you're going to do like a near future, like futurism, like prediction thing, just putting things like slightly not quite as far ahead as people think they will, is probably closer to where things
Right.
will be.
And the self-driving trucks were awful and ran people off the road, so the
Mm-hmm.
AI wasn't there yet. So
Yeah,
they're even more realistic.
not far off. Yeah, we're solidly in the era though that in like the early 2000s would have been considered like near
The future.
the middle distant future.
The distant future,
Yeah,
the year 2000.
the humans are
The
dead.
humans are dead.
Because like Back to the Future 2, the future they go to was like 2020, right? Or was it 2015?
2015.
Okay.
Yep, I remember everybody was making a big deal out of it back then.
Yeah. It's kind of funny how like sci-fi, as we approach like the 2020s, 2015, 2030s, that's like where for a decade or several decades, like maybe half a century, they've been saying futuristic stuff happens here. Like when Skynet get launched in Terminator, I don't know.
I haven't seen any of the Terminator films.
Jamie, pull that up.
Yeah,
You have not? The first one, I've seen the first two, and those apparently are the two worth watching.
yeah, that's my understanding as well. Subsequent,
That's a lot of 80s films, apparently.
yeah, like the first two. I have only seen the first Rocky as well.
The second one is pretty good. The third one is okay. The fourth one's weird and interesting from like a
Historical
like context of being Cold War. 5 is kind of a nothing burger. Balboa is kind of a great one, which is Rocky 6. I've only seen the first of the Creed movies.
Yeah, I think there's 3 now.
There's 3 now, but apparently they're all good.
There's 3 now.
There's 3 now.
On goes review of Rocky 5,000.
Let's see what's happened since the last podcast. Not a fair bit, but because that would have been what? Because we did Scott Pilgrim last time. That was
Yep.
2 weeks ago,
Yeah.
It feels like it was more than
2.5, something like that.
Riley is audio visually pulling that up.
Yep.
I had a fun adventure actually just today.
Oh, yeah?
So I was doing some stuff, checking my bank account, as sometimes people do, when I realized earlier this week there were several withdrawals that were not me through PlayStation. I'm like, oh, shoot. My PlayStation got hacked, and I left my card on there, didn't I? So I had to go through the adventure of getting that recovered and I'm getting refunded.
Good.
It'll all be good.
Fraudulent charges on
Yeah. Bought a bunch of games. It's like, I was going to buy Red Dead Redemption 2 anyway at some point, but like not at the full price you bought it at, so give me that back.
Yeah.
So I got that all figured out. I'm like, I am A, never saving a credit card to any account ever again. B, two-factor authenticating everything now.
Well, especially since like PlayStation 4 is like such an old like platform, people have probably figured out.
PlayStation accounts get hacked seasonally.
Yeah.
Like there's a new batch every couple months, honestly.
Turns out convenience is not worth the price of credit card fraud.
Quite. So I'm gonna have to take a bit of a trip back to the bank in hometown tomorrow to pick up the replacement card.
Nice.
So
Road trip.
Probably just gonna do that after work time. So they pretty much just open, so I can drive through, grab that.
Mm-hmm.
Don't know if I'll call on the folks and have coffee or just drive straight back. I'll probably just drive straight back.
Yeah. I mean, because was it last weekend you hung out? No,
it was the weekend before last, but I'm
Weekend
also going back next weekend. I have a godson who's getting
yep.
his first communion.
Oh, fun.
Yeah.
So I'll be set down in St. Cloud?
That will be down in the Brainerd area.
Brainerd, okay.
Which is kind of cool. I had one do it over Easter, get his first communion and baptized and confirmed and the whole 9 yards. And I'm super proud of you.
He's the godfather among us.
Yes, I'm responsible for 4 now.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
And 3 of them I share with my older sister Elena. The 4th one, it's all me, baby.
Yeah.
I got her beat now.
Yeah.
It's a big darn contest.
You wish you
obviously.
had the god kids I had. Racking them up.
My grandmama.
My grandma.
She made you a cannoli.
Skunk butt rug.
Although I would imagine, I think
Cannoli's pretty
functionally, my younger sister, who is the boyfriend of the man who came into the church, is
The girlfriend.
the girlfriend. The boyfriend is the guy that came to the church
There we
of my
go.
girlfriend, of my sister. Shut up! My sister, who is this guy's boyfriend, could probably be considered
We
We're gonna cut.
English. Do you speak it? No.
My father's brother's nephew's cousin's uncle's former roommate.
Strike that from the record. But no, don't, because it's funny.
because it's funny. For once, it's not me. That's all I can say.
I've only had 4 sips.
Is that the bub?
No, I grabbed a thing of the bullet.
Oh right, yeah, bullet rye. That's some
I
pretty good stuff.
Figured you wouldn't mind since it's
Oh
there.
yeah, no, that's the communal whiskey. I'm gonna have to try out. I got a whiskey for Christmas, and was subsequently roped into a Exodus 90 like experience. It's like a roguelike, but Exodus 90 like.
Exodus Light.
Exodus like, and I have not yet been able to try it, so I might have to do that tonight. So, but yeah, how was everybody's Easter? I suppose Nathan, you were sponsored. I was
I
also
touched
there
on
for that Easter vigil.
It was a lovely Easter vigil.
It was interesting.
Tell people to stop contacting us while the podcast is going on, because now people can see that we're not fully paying attention to what's going on.
Yeah, that's fair.
That's why I silenced my phone before coming into this. It's just like at the
Good man.
beginning, it's like
They can see the ghostly figure coming down the stairs
Good man.
from time to time.
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
because the house is haunted.
nothing substantial has happened in the bonfire conversation since we last checked. So,
And if you're watching or listening to this, you probably know which bonfire we're talking about because you're hosting it, one of our 2 listeners.
yep.
2 of our 2 listeners.
2 of our, yeah.
Yeah. So,
3 of our 2 listeners.
Yeah.
That is how math work here.
Yeah, that's how we do it.
That is how
Yeah, no, Easter was great. All the whole family got together, and then I spent the next week with a kind of nasty cold, thanks to my niece, I think, or somebody. I mean, it was going around. There's still people coughing and hacking, but
I
hopefully
probably
this
got
nice,
mine from the same niece.
yeah, nice warm sunshine and sunny weather. Looking forward to enjoying that this weekend.
Finally warming up and acting like it's spring, despite the winter not really being much of a winter this winter.
Yeah, it's kind of weird. I kept saying it's like it was 6 months of March was basically what it came down to, more or less.
Yeah.
Let's see, what for your Easter, Riley? You played at Newman Center.
I played at Newman, yes. We had Easter tacos on Saturday.
Right? Nice.
As my brother usually has to work Sundays, and Walmart halteth for no man. So, as unfortunate as that was, we got together on Saturday, had a little family time.
Had the quiche.
No, we had tacos.
Tacos.
Easter tacos.
Easter tacos.
What does the Easter taco have any like theological meaning?
I'm
The
sure.
burial shroud.
I'm sure we can always come up with something.
The taco of Turin.
What does that say about the taco meat? I don't want to know.
No.
Let's not answer
I
that.
think it's tortillas and
Unimagined.
unleavened bread, though.
Yeah.
So
It's a Mexican Passover.
And it's not composed of wheat, so
Is it?
oh,
Well,
it's
some of them are.
you
yeah,
can get
well,
corn
The
and
real,
flour.
the
varieties.
legit ones aren't.
yeah, that's true. The corn tortillas, the OG corn tortillas. Oh, we forgot a prop.
We forgot a prop.
Yeah.
There's supposed to be a prop.
Well, not supposed to be, but people have
They've
lots
commented.
of compliments on the typewriter.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Like in the comments, actually.
Yeah, and then, well, not the comments, but like from people.
Oh, from people
telling
who
me.
the people we know IRL
An
who have watched it.
eagle-eyed one of the two viewers noticed the lightsaber in the shot last time, so we're gonna have to do something
Make
like
it
that.
better. Well, you got Hank right over there.
We do have Hank. He's not in the shot though.
No, he's not.
He could be made to be in the
That's
shot.
true. Just stick him in the window well there.
In the window well
In
there.
the window there.
Behind your shade there. Just
Yeah.
kind of peeking.
Yeah, with just open enough to see the outline. I have from our old house a clip on my phone somewhere of like we were doing something outside in the driveway, and I look in through like the glass door, and you just see like the silhouette of Hank, like backlit from the kitchen. It's just like, well, that's kind of creepy.
Or we could find a spot to put Toby.
Yeah,
Toby got the usual comments on Monday when I had my
Oh,
Bible study over.
Yep.
Everybody was like, that dog looked real for a minute. And I looked again and it wasn't.
It's like Toby is real.
Well, Toby is real.
Tell him, Toby.
Say something, Toby.
Just get all schizophrenic about that. Oh, you.
Oh, you scamp, Toby. Funny thing that like the name of the dog predates us having that dog. It is for the benefit of people listening who
Thanks
aren't
to a
familiar
Bob
with
Ross
Toby.
sketch.
Yes, it's a stuffed dog, but it's very lifelike,
It's life-sized for sure.
life size. Yeah, And from a
Lifelike
distance,
enough
lifelike.
that my brother's dog was not a fan of that thing. Creeped her out. She would not come back inside the house after that. That was a whole thing.
So like it was nobody here that named him Toby. Is my point, I
No.
guess.
Nobody in present company, but we've reinforced the.
Wasn't Toby the police dog in Sherlock Holmes? There may have been.
Yes. Well, no, it was like this old. It was like the dog that Sherlock would borrow from this old guy he knew that was really good at sniffing. Yeah.
Okay.
I thought he was that guy that was gonna marry that one gal that was really not too pleased about her situation in life and was like, I'll just beg God to kill me.
Which one was that?
Toby. You know. Tobiah?
What am I forgetting?
The book of Tobit?
Oh. Oh yeah.
Yeah, Toby.
Yeah.
Toby.
And then
Toby.
the doves crapped in his
Toby.
eyes, and he had cataracts.
And that cleared it all up.
Mm-hmm. Fish oil, man. Turns out those Shackley people might have been onto something.
Or
Well, speaking of being onto something,
Palladium Papist. I'm James.
I'm Nathan.
and I'm Riley.
We get to say slightly Arabic-sounding words and not be racist today because we're doing a philosophical on Dune. Specifically the Denis Villeneuve films.
Although there will be copious commentary about its
The books,
divergence or lack thereof from the book
But not
Because by the
but not
person who has
divergence
read
the
the
by the person who has
Not
read
Divergence, the book. That's just kind of Hunger
divergence
Games
from
light.
the book, but not that one. So yes, philosophical. Get philosophical about films. Dune. Riley, you're the most familiar with the source material. What is Dune?
Dune is-
What is Dune, indeed?
Arrakis.
Arrakis is Arrakis, and the desert takes the weak.
Dude, it's just a really spicy
what?
planet.
Some 500 years-ish in the future, or like 1,000. I don't know.
Yeah, more like 1,000,
A
but
very long time in the
considerably futuristic.
It's sci-fi, not high fantasy.
We
Right.
live in the post-Butlerian jihad era.
Although we don't really know that.
Right.
This is all kind of Star Wars-esque backfill lore.
Right.
So, I mean, Star Wars is a Dune ripoff, let's all be honest.
Yeah.
I mean, most interplanetary sci-fi in the 21st century is a Dune ripoff on some level.
Much as a lot of modern fantasy is a ripoff of Lord of the Rings.
Right. Dune is to sci-fi what Lord of the Rings was to fantasy.
Dune is to modern sci-fi.
Modern sci-fi.
So we're a few thousand years in the future. All computers have been eliminated because there was a war like the Matrix or something, and like where AI was trying to take out humanity.
People were getting spooked about the capacity of computers, and so they got rid of them all.
Yep. So now, how do you do interspace travel without computers?
Drugs.
Drugs. You use
Drugs.
drugs to get really good at math.
You drive on drugs.
Yep.
You drive over the drugs, you sweep them up with big old machines,
Yep.
and you
have-
sell it to the people who can take the space drugs to make them really good at math. And that's the galactic economy.
And the Titan Goombas have to be dodging enormous sandworms.
That aren't the sandworms the source of the spice?
Yes.
And so they live in the sands of Arrakis / it was once called Dune. And they are a threat to people harvesting the
Humanity is
Spice
spread throughout
in
the
the sand.
cosmos, and a certain tribe of humanity called the Fremen.
A certain tribe of Arrakis in particular.
Yeah. The Fremen have made Arrakis Dune their home, but there is a space empire, and there are these noble houses that rule over sectors of the galaxy. And the two major ones for the purposes of this story are House Harkonnen and House Atreides.
Atreides. And our main character is a member, the son, the heir to House Atreides.
Baron or Duke.
His
Leto
father,
Atreides.
Duke Leto.
Duke Leto Atreides. So for a very long time, the Harkonnens have had dominion over Dune and a bitter rivalry with the Atreides. And for some reason, the Emperor has ordered the Harkonnens to back off Dune and for the Atreides to take it over and provide the spice to the Empire. So, wanting to uphold the dignity of their house, Baron or Duke, is it Duke Leto? Duke Leto agrees and takes his whole household army to
whole kit and
Arrakis
caboodle over to Arrakis.
to take ownership of it.
Some
and
cool
start-
bagpipes play,
Yeah.
some cool sandy outfits.
Duncan, Idaho, this big hotshot pilot who's friends with Paul, the prince, whose mother, oh yes, important note, his mother is a concubine of the Duke, and she is a member of this order of space nuns called the Bene Gesserit. And
The weird genetics crazed space nuns.
they are determined to bring forth this sort of powerful messiah figure, the Kwisatz Haderach.
A mind that will bridge space and time. It's not abundantly clear what exactly that means or what it accomplishes, but
It will be a man at some point.
it will be a man at some point who has the mental capacity to kind of... It's again not really clear what they want, at least early on.
And the Bene Gesserits wield this ability called the Voice, which when they speak in a certain tone, forces people to do things against their will. And
Even really against their perception of what they have just done.
yeah, men do not ordinarily wield this power. However, Paul's mother has been training him in this. And she has faith that her son will be the Quisas Haderach.
The chosen one.
The chosen one, yeah. And then like a Bene Gesserit lady shows up and like shoves a needle in front, like, hey, put your hand in the box and face fear.
You
or
don't.
kill you
If
with
you're an
poison.
animal, you die. If you're a human, you get to live.
Yep.
If you succumb to
Come on,
fear,
what's in the box? What's in the box? Let's see where we're. I think that's
Yeah, now they're headed to Arrakis to take over.
now.
But
The
not
things
everyone's
aren't
happy.
not all as quite as it seems, because the
in fact,
Harkonnens,
most things are quite not as they seem.
the Harkonnens, being the bloodthirsty brutes that they are determined to take back Arrakis and reestablish their rather lucrative drug trade, or yeah,
Legal drug trade.
yeah, legal
Yes,
drug
lucrative
trade.
and legal.
Yeah,
Best kind.
yeah. And the Bene Gesserits are pulling strings because they're trying to basically control the whole galaxy with
And they're trying
politics.
to ensure that the bloodlines they have spent centuries cultivating survive.
Yep.
And Paul and Lady Jessica are important parts of that.
Mm-hmm.
They are kind of nearing the apex of their designs.
Mm-hmm.
So they are bloodlines that the Bene Gesserit wish to preserve.
However,
And so
the
they don't
Bene
want them dead.
Gesserits, this is something you find out in the second movie, I think. But, well, the Emperor decides to betray the House Atreides and assist.
That was well known by the first movie.
Okay.
Yeah.
And uses his elite soldiers to help them wipe out the Atreides on Arrakis in a surprise attack.
And the dude singing hamburger, cheeseburger, Big Mac, Whopper.
So, in the middle of the night, a traitor in the ranks,
Dr. Yue.
Dr. Yue tries to kill Duke Leto.
And strikes the killing blow, but also
He gives him,
plants
here's a cyanide pill to crack in
cyanide tooth
a cyanide tooth to crack in
in the
Harkonnen's
presence of the
face.
Baron.
and try to kill him. Fat GLaDOS rolling around on his robot arm. A important part we skipped is like sort of Paul's relationship with his father, the Duke, to this point. Tried to raise him up.
Not narratively important, but thematically
Yeah,
important.
thematically important. So, being a prince of a great house, there's a lot of high expectations on him. But Duke Leto loves his son and is a good father, and he's like, no matter what happens, you will always be who
You will be the only thing I ever needed you to be.
which is
My son.
Remember who you are.
Yep.
You are my son.
Yep. Exactly.
It is your kingdom. Look at the horizon. All the light touches. It's your kingdom.
Look at all the clouds and rain and water. And then the other important note is that Paul has been studying the Fremen and Arrakis and all this stuff for a long time, so he's sort of
He's prepped
versed.
to know what's going on
in their
when he
ways.
lands.
So
Takes
they,
some people by surprise when he starts speaking their language.
yeah.
Knowing
Because
what they're up to.
at first, Duke Leto is like, okay, here's what we're gonna do. We know that the Harkonnens are out to get us, so I'm gonna try and befriend the Fremen because they're quite a massive population on this planet. So between our power and theirs,
Not that they knew that.
no, but we'll become a desert power. Is what
On
he's thinking.
Caladan, we ruled with air power and sea power.
We'll rule
On
desert.
Arrakis, we'll rule with desert power.
Yeah,
And then
That
the
is a
Fire Nation
line
attacks.
lifted straight out of the book. So
yeah.
Desert power.
So he has this goal to like befriend the Fremen and forge an alliance with them and stuff, because the Harkonnens were simply like, you get out of my way, kill you attitude towards them. So anyway, so the whole betrayal happens. The House Atreides is pretty much wiped out. The survivors flee. Paul and his mother they're taken away because the Bene Gesserits are like, okay, we can't kill them, so the Harkonnens like take them out into the desert, presumably to just let them wander around till they die. And they manage to use the voice and kill the guards and fly the helicopter over to a Fremen hideout where they meet up with Duncan, Idaho. who happened to
And
survive.
Liet Kynes,
Yeah.
who
The
is far less
Imperial Doctor
important.
lady person.
Imperial Doctor man in the books.
Ah.
And that's important because there's a thematic contrast between Kynes and his father and Paul and Leto. But they decided
They
not
just
to
threw that out
include
the
that.
window, huh? Dang. Well, the Sardaukar and the Emperor's elite troops and the Harkonnens are still hunting down Paul to try to kill him. So they eventually track him down to the desert hideout, and they're like, you got to go seek like the main Fremen refuge. Because there's also the Bene Gesserits have also been doing a version of their Messiah myth among the Fremen, and he's called in that Lisan al-Gaib.
Or the Mahdi.
No, the Mahdi. Yeah. So one of the guys that, like a Fremen leader that Leto met with prior to the big purge, was what's his name?
Stilgar.
Stilgar. He believes that Paul is the Lisan al-Gaib. He's like, I recognize you. And Paul is like still not like 100% up to speed on what that stuff is, but his mom is up on all that. It is said that the Lisan al-Gaib will I'm just gonna keep saying it. It can see visions, see the future, and speak
And
the language of the
will
Fremen.
lead the Fremen to paradise.
Yeah.
Which,
'Cause
important.
Once upon a time, according to the lore, the Arrakis was once a water planet.
It wasn't once, but it can be.
Full of, yeah.
There
So-
is
Full of what?
the whole thing that gets left out in the movie is that Liet Kynes' father basically gaslit the entire Fremen population into this sort of utopian, we're going to turn Arrakis into a paradise thing, and we're going to unlock all this groundwater that we know is in there.
Because it's a desert planet, water is a very precious resource. They have suits that repurpose their body water, and whenever somebody dies, they suck the water out of them because it's a very, very, very valuable resource.
But like the Fremen as a people, their goal is to like terraform Arrakis into something livable.
On Arrakis, we do not want that.
Yeah, and that is sort of lost on the film because Kynes is almost a non-character.
Basically a background character.
So
Um,
yeah, that's why they care so much about they're like hoarding water and pouring it in pools in their sieges in order to to have the resource they need to build this paradise.
So when they arrive at when they're found by the Fremen, Stilgar is like, all right, well, why should we let you guys stick around? Because like, you're just going to take up resources and be a pain. So Paul has to sort of win him and his mother's like safe passage among their group by defeating a Fremen warrior, Jamis.
Well,
Jamis
he
is
didn't have to. Jamis challenged him.
That's right.
He's like, you.
Oh yeah, because Stilgar
you're-
was just going to let them in because he believed that Paul was at least an al-Gaib.
He wasn't that sure yet at that point.
But
He's
he
essentially
had-
like,
he was like, what if?
you guys can fight well enough, clearly.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll let you go in. And he's like, I'm the strong. Jamis is like, you know what? No, I'm going to challenge you. I'm going to call you out on that. You do not have the Duke card.
Yeah.
He's like, I do have the Duke card. I am the Duke card.
Yep.
Cool reference.
Yeah.
For those uneducated, but
More
Yeah.
relevant than I would have thought when first recording this podcast.
intentional.
Uh,
Anyway,
let's
Paul
see.
defeats Jamis.
Kills him. His body's decomposing in his locker.
His body's
Nope.
not decomposing in the desert because there's not a whole lot of
They raise
decomposing to do. They retrieve his body's water.
Yeah. And another thing that Paul has been experiencing visions and stuff when exposed to the psychoactive properties of spice that's just kind of in the air on Arrakis. And he's been seeing visions of this lady named Chani, who
It's like-
is one of the Fremen women, and she's my girlfriend. She's my love interest. Who
Honestly, who wouldn't have visions of Zendaya? I don't know.
comment.
No
No comment.
So that's all going on. So they end up in the Fremen camp, and Paul's like, all right, I'm going to make these desert people fight for me, and we're going to get revenge against the Duke, the Harkonnens, and
The Baron.
set the Baron, set everything right. Is that where the film ends?
That
That's
is
where the first part
The first
ends,
film. Yeah,
just about.
Dune Part 1.
Part 2 takes up the second half of the book, so it's really...
Yeah. So Paul is living among the Fremen, falling in love with SHAI and all this stuff, and leading raids on Harkonnen spice harvesting. And they're just cleaning up shop, killing people left and right, disrupting the spice trade, making Baron Harkonnen very, very mad. His mom, as it turns out, is pregnant with Paul's younger sister, and is told to become the reverend mother of this people, which I guess the Bene Gesserits have.
Yeah.
I mean, the one lady who comes with the Gom Jabbar is a Reverend Mother. That's just kind of a general thing among the Bene Gesserit, but they kind of have their fingers in everything, so everywhere has Reverend Mothers, though that takes different forms.
So in order to do this for the Fremen, though, she has to drink the water of life, which is extracted from
Little SHAI HULUD.
little SHAI HULUD.
From baby sandworms, so it's basically like spice in its purest form.
Really, really concentrated psychoactive chemical.
And because of this and the fact that she's pregnant, she can now directly talk to
This
her
won't
daughter.
affect my baby.
Yeah. She can
Oh,
now
it will.
directly talk to her now.
Because normally the effect is it like psychopathically connects you to all of the previous Reverend Mothers. But the fact that Jessica is pregnant connects her to Alia as well.
Right.
So
So now she can just talk to.
and all of that memory gets implanted in Alia as an embryo.
Yeah.
So
So he can Paul like his mom Jessica can just talk to her unborn daughter with her brain now. So that's a whole thing. And let's see. So she's like, all right, here's the deal. I'm going to keep stirring up the Fremen and spreading wide the prophecy, or spreading wide, like, the belief that Paul is the LISAN al-GAIB.
LISAN al-GAIB.
Win people over to his cause. So Paul's like, I'm not so sure about this whole Messiah thing, but I do want revenge against the Harkonnen, so I'm going to become one of the Fremen and follow their ways and make my way through the desert, have my trial passage, ride a great-grandfather, SHAI HULUD.
Which is the sandworm. I don't think we explained
Yes.
that, but
Yeah, SHAI HULUD.
that's the Fremen name.
SHAI HULUD.
That's a thumbnail right there.
SHAI HULUD. Let's see. So, and the more feats of courage and strength that Paul pulls off, the more Stilgar believes that he is the LISAN al-GAIB.
And the more that, and even the ones who
Do a
don't,
LISAN al-GAIB counter for this episode.
and even if not everyone believes he's the chosen one, like they at least believe in him as an individual,
Yeah.
as a warrior, as a
They
leader.
adopt him as one of their own. They give him a Fremen and war name. He is now Paul Muad'Dib.
Paul Usul Muad'Dib.
Usul Muad'Dib.
Usul is pillar.
Yeah, and Muad'Dib is desert mouse.
It's interesting, the two little one names, Paul and Muad'Dib.
Very, very clever of you. What's the guy's name?
Mr. Frank Herbert.
Mr. Frank Herbert. So, meanwhile, Bene Gesserits are like, well, we think Jessica and Paul might be dead, so we should pick out somebody else to potentially be the next.
Kvisatz Hadadach.
Hey, that Fade Rotha, the psycho with a knife, the Harkonnen house, he might have potential. Let's send one of our space nuns to go do stuff with him and have
And preserve the bloodline, as it
Yeah.
were.
So they're like, all right, we're gonna send you after Muad'Dib because at this point he's basically, from their perspective, a terrorist. And
He's a Fremen terrorist. They don't know that he's Paul.
Yep. So like, all right, go put down this rebellion of the Fremen because apparently, so Dune, Arrakis has like all planets in northern and southern hemisphere, that are sort of divided by these incredibly near impassable sandstorms. There's a whole
This is all nonsense the movie made up, by the way.
oh, well, for the purposes of the movie, there's a whole buttload of Fremen who live on the southern half of the planet that the Harkonnens were previously unaware of because they never really bothered to go down there. So Paul's upset though because in his visions he sees his mom going to the south, rousing up the Fremen and a giant holy war starting, and billions dead in my name, a holy war. So he's not all about that. He's like, I don't want to cause a holy war. I just want to have my little space, my desert girlfriend. I want to kill the Harkonnens.
Spoiler alert: he causes a holy war.
Yeah.
End of movie.
There's a climactic battle with Feyd-Rautha between him and Paul as Paul pulls off a coup to challenge the Emperor.
Because the Emperor and his daughter come to town because he's upset that the spice trade has been upset. It's like, what's the deal, Harkonnens? And so Paul uses this opportunity. Oh, he finds Gurney, his dad's general, is still wandering around the desert. So he's like now his top general dude again. So they rally the Fremen. They find the Atreides nukes. And they attack the main,
Arrakeen, the main settlement.
Yeah. And they defeat the Sardaukar and the Harkonnens, and Paul directly challenges the Emperor for the throne and takes the hand of his daughter, Irulan, I think it's Irulan, as and it's sort of a political arranged marriage. He defeats Feyd-Rautha in a duel, and it becomes known that the Emperor, by the prompting of the Bene Gesserit, betrayed House Atreides on purpose. Well, you have to do that on purpose, but assisted, like the Bene
was
Gesserit,
complicit.
Yeah, he was complicit in that. So now the great houses are coming to Arrakis to see what all the fuss is about. And Paul's like, will you recognize my ascension to the Empire? And they're like, no.
Bet.
All right, holy war time. So they go off to fight the rest of the houses, and the big war for Paul's dominance of the galaxy begins.
That's the end of the first two films. That is the first book.
Yeah. So cool stuff. What do we like about Dune?
One of my favorite things is the...
Hans Zimmer killing it as usual.
I was going to say the father-son theme.
Oh, yes. Naturally.
Which
of course,
is...
Yeah, that's cool too. Of course.
It was a really powerful line, just hearing, Leto being a father. It's just that line, if you don't become the Duke Atreides, you'll be the only thing I ever needed you to be. My son.
That was a great line.
It's like, that's fatherhood right there.
Yeah.
It's like, you don't have to be what I want you to be.
Rip Leto.
You don't have to conform to my expectations. You can be your own man. I found my own way to it, he says. Leto wanted to be a pilot when he was a youngin', and, it's not well explored why he ended up as Duke, but it's it's a family, a house that is honorable.
He to the responsibility.
Yeah, he's
That's sort of his legacy.
Yeah, I am a leader. I have been placed in charge of these people. I am their custodian. I am their guardian. And
to a large extent, Paul sort of picks up and carries his father's legacy. He puts on his ducal signet ring when he takes control of the Fremen and starts the war.
He is growing into, or trying to grow into, being his father's son, the only thing he ever wanted him to be.
Mm-hmm.
But when there's pressures from all directions to be this or that or the other thing, to be the chosen one, to be, he makes the best attempt he can in the situation he's given to be a man his father would be proud of.
Yep. And wrestling with the fact that if he goes down this path, he's going to kill billions.
Yeah. And this is contrasted in the book with Liet Kynes and his father, who imposes his vision onto Liet of what this is how it's going to be. You are going to inherit my terraforming ecological legacy. You are going to turn this planet into a desert paradise. You are going to take over the Fremen, even though you're a foreigner. And like in many ways, Liet Kynes is what Paul. They have so many parallels, except where it counts, because Paul Liet Kynes' father didn't allow him to be his own man. He's like, you are going to be this. You have no choice about it.
And there's kind of a similar thing going on with the Harkonnens too, where like there's the uncle. It's not a father, but it's a father figure to both of the young warlords that end up
to Drax
bickering
and Elvis.
against each other.
Beast Raban.
Right.
To Drax and Elvis.
Because but no, he's like, you will do this for me, and you'll be. He's controlling. He's trying
it's
to make
about power and control.
Yep.
And not sonship.
It's like power and control is against actual love of a parent. You know, there's like, if you fail me, you'll be killed and replaced with this other guy. Versus, if you don't become what people expect you, you're still my son, and I love you. There's like that. So even like, it's stronger in the book, obviously, with the other two characters, but like, it's elsewhere in the story.
And then their knives
As
chip
a
and
theme.
shatter, and they both die, and then the Duke is executed by Paul, who, as it turns out, was his grandfather, which I feel like was
The Baron.
The Baron, yeah.
The Duke is his father. And him.
I'm getting my nobility mixed up.
King
I feel like it was
at
supposed to be a
breakfast.
bigger reveal than it ended up being. It didn't.
It was
quite-
sort of a side note in the book,
Yeah.
too. It's like,
you are the synthesis of two different bloodlines.
Turns out that the Bene Gesserit are just kind of crossbreeding the same people over and over again, because there's all the stuff they want concentrated in those bloodlines.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's kind of sort of well-known-ish by people at that time.
And we also learned in the first movie that Lady Jessica, Paul's mom, was sort of defying the leader of the Bene Gesserit because she was just supposed to have a girl.
You were told to bear only daughters.
Yeah. And because she's bound and determined to be the mother of the Quisas Hadarach. The LISAN al-GAIB.
But also, there's a parental source of not loving
Yeah.
them for who they are and who they become based on their own.
Like, she does, but she very much is like, I'm going to make things happen for you, son.
I love you and I honor your decision, but I'm gonna make it so there's only one decision for you to make.
I'm going to cause a holy war in your name, son. Love you.
Spoiler, and then I'm going to disappear when you do it.
Yeah. And the movie does something stupid with Chani. I guess we can talk
Yes,
about that.
we can talk about that. As I've let it marinate over the last couple of weeks, it's less incoherent than I thought it was.
Yeah.
I still don't like it.
Internally.
It's internally consistent. I still don't like it. To be fair, Chani is kind of a boring character in the book. I can acknowledge that for what it is. Chani is just supportive girlfriend. She's like, I'm going to stand by you no matter what happens. There's more of a relationship. It's less kind of casual than the movie makes it out to be.
But I think there's an issue with Hollywood where they could have altered her character to make her more interesting as a supportive girlfriend. But Hollywood doesn't know how to make healthy supportive relationships. And so this isn't interesting. We must add unnecessary drama. Mistrust.
Lack of
Third act
communication.
breakup.
Basically,
Lack of communication.
as Paul ascends as the leader of the Fremen and is acknowledges LISAN al-GAIB and begins the holy war, she's like, no. You're doing a political marriage for convenience with no intention of ever
Well,
doing
as
anything
I was
with that.
thinking about that, I'm like, I don't think she's as mad about the marriage as she is about the holy war.
Yeah.
I think that's the
That's
thing.
how I understood it when I watched it.
That was my first impression was, yeah, she's married.
Yeah. She was upset with him when he in that big scene in the great.
Why are you accepting the mantle of the LISAN al-GAIB?
I thought we were talking about you not wanting that.
Yeah.
What, dude? What?
And for the purpose in the story, it's this is what gets me north to have my revenge.
This is what gets me. This is also a thing they do a disservice to in the movie. This is the route that causes the least suffering. This is the best world. Because he's prescient, he has these visions, he can see how all this plays out.
If this is going
This
to
is the
happen-
best world.
Yeah.
And that's
You've seen-
horrifying. But
you've
this
seen
is the best
14
world.
million futures, and there's only one where they win.
Yeah.
There's only one where they lose the least hard.
Right.
And 37 billion people still die.
Yeah.
But that's the worst. That's the best option there was.
If 37 billion dead is the best option, there's not a lot of good options.
No. So, and they didn't really talk about that in the movie.
They didn't. I don't know. You
might
guys
have-
tell me how well that was communicated
They
to
might have
you.
mentioned it now that I think about it, but I can't remember.
They don't really do a good job of consistently highlighting Paul's prescience and the fact that he knows everything that's going to happen before it
Yeah.
happens.
Like it's there for sure. They shows like visions and stuff like that, and him wrestling with them, but not like you don't get as much of a sense until the end. Like when he's like, "All right, screw it, I'm gonna be the LISAN out of GAIB. I'm gonna."
The vibe I got from the movie was he's like, not gonna do it. Not gonna do it. No holy war. Not gonna do it.
I mean-
and then it's like, suddenly, you know what? We're doing it.
Screw
Let's
it.
do this thing.
I mean, that was kind of, he
That's
was,
it, we've
I'm
all-
not doing it, I'm not doing it, I'm not doing it the whole time in the book. Even after he becomes the emperor, I'm not doing it. I want nothing to do with this. But I have to.
Yeah.
There's no other choice.
So they tried to strike a middle path, I guess, between those two.
They didn't show you what you needed to know to make it make sense.
Yeah.
You didn't get a lot of
Because in the
Paul's
movie, he's just
internal
like, "Screw it, we ball."
what's going.
kind of
Yeah.
at the end. So yeah.
Which like they're doing Dune Messiah as the third movie, so like there is opportunity for them to backfill and like give him the motivation, like express that I hate this, but I've got to do this. It's what causes the least pain.
Yep.
Which, if they do that going forward, then that's a good move. But like, it wasn't as present as it could have been in
Yeah.
Dune and Dune 2 specifically.
I think they did a good job following the pace in Dune 1.
Mm-hmm.
Like, the prescience doesn't really start coming in until he's been exposed to spice for a while. The vision in the tent is, like, fairly well paced along with the book, but it just, like, completely dropped in part 2.
Well, there's a lot more to the book, it seems,
Yes.
and you've got to.
I mean, that's the trouble with adaptations.
But that's the
thing about
the inevitability of it is a core theme.
Yeah,
And that's the thing that I'm upset that isn't included. Is like,
sure.
it was left more artistically ambiguous, audibly air quotes.
my philosophy is these movies are movies for book readers.
Yeah.
And like, if you haven't read the books, you're not going to get as much as you could out of the movie. And it makes you want to go read the books to fill in some of that. And which the one thing about that is like, why did they do what they did with Chani? If that's the reasoning behind it, like,
Because that's how you write strong female characters in modern Hollywood.
it's
The
like
formula you follow.
the whole driving plot point of doing Messiah is that they haven't been able to sire an heir, Chani and Paul, and without Chani in the picture, what's going to drive
Like,
the
what's
plot?
the conflict there? Yeah. Like, how does she come around? It's like, okay, fine. Well,
The whole political intrigue revolves around that point, and it's like, if that's not there, like, what are they going to do? I don't know. We'll see.
see what they. Yeah. Yeah, we just sort of did further analysis. What? Any
Well,
cool,
That's what happens with the cool stuff. where
Yeah,
it's like
that's
we
true.
talk about the things we like, and the things we like leads into, well, we like them because they have something deeper going on.
Yeah. Any other anything else we wanted to make note of?
I have an interesting point of discussion maybe on the whole fundamentalism thing.
Oh yeah. That's pretty important.
It's
like-
important in the movie. It doesn't exist in the book.
Right. That's what I mean. Though, is like a
Right.
discussion point. That's something we were very much talking about
And-
after we watched the movie.
Yeah.
I mean, I agree with the thesis. Fundamentalism bad.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's a conclusion I get behind. But it's like,
It's a rather prescient point nowadays, I guess.
it's kind of obvious.
But wasn't it like with like the Dune books in the beginning? It's like, oh, beware fascism. Like everything in fiction was post World War II.
Right.
It's like, yeah, no crap. Like 20th century happened. We get it. But yeah, this takes a slightly different tack.
It doesn't take any discernible tack. It's like, what's the point? I don't get it. Like,
How come there are some fundamentalists Fremen and some that are more secular, for lack of a better.
More
Shawnee is sort of shown to represent.
Where does that vision come from?
Yeah.
Like,
They all do the spice.
Kynes is the source of that vision in the book. Kynes imposing that upon the Fremen people and selling them on this ecological vision of Arrakis as a paradise.
Yep.
Why do they care in the movie? That's not well established. Why do they care about not just surviving and hiding against the Harkonnens? Why do they care about... It's not...
This
It's
vision of a
mentioned from
better
time
world.
to time that they want to make this better world and to have it their home, but like the whole reason the Fremen are so powerful is because they have this unified vision.
Yeah.
They have this goal that drives them.
And that split kind of implies like there's two people this has been repeated to them for a long time, and one group still stays true to it because they're old fashioned, and then the other guys are jaded and gave up. But the idea of Arrakis as a paradise hasn't been around long enough in the book.
Yeah, it's
for it to be that kind of like
100 years
old-fashioned,
tops.
jaded thing that would jade people.
Yep.
You know,
There's all of, like, being a Fremen is intrinsically bound up in this warrior, nomad, religious zealot. Like that's all crucial to being a Fremen.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
it's the unifying factor that makes them as powerful as they are. Plus the fact that the desert is unforgiving, and in order to survive there...
It seems as if...
But they get that part right.
Yeah. It seems as if at the end of the movie, though, like, Shawnee's really the only one left who's, like, has an issue with Paul as LISAN out of GAIB.
because they got to do Hollywood Girlfriend.
Yeah. But, like, it seems like everybody is pretty well bought in at the end of the film because of the great power that Paul wields. So I guess for what that's worth, they sort of...
It's mostly me complaining about Hollywood wanting to tell their own stories.
Yeah.
If you're going to adapt something, tell their story.
Yeah.
If you're gonna
Tell
your
Frank
own
Herbert's story.
You don't
Tell
need to
your own
self-insert into every single property.
You can you can change things, you can alter things, but like
That's
convey
necessary
the
for a
core,
change in medium.
convey the core things.
Yeah.
Also, give yourself narrative room to make the next one. Like, don't do an Aragon and stomp on your foot and remove your ability to make the next several movies.
That movie doesn't exist. It can't hurt you.
It already has. It's
Yeah.
too late.
We're too far gone. Go back and listen to that episode, I guess.
Or watch that movie and cry if you're a masochist.
Yeah.
So that's my only exposure to Aragon. I'm like, this is lame. Of course, because I didn't read the book. So it's like, it's less lame in the
Books
book,
are
apparently.
Pretty good. I have my complaints with the books, but I think I talked about most of them. Anyway.
How about we talk about Dune?
Yeah. Let's do that. Any other things we want to get into before we dive into the Transcendental Analysis?
On the whole, really good.
Yeah.
A few things that soured it enough for me to walk out of Dune 2 disappointed.
Yeah.
And I appreciate having been exposed to a version of Dune because I'm like, oh, this is like the important sci-fi thing. I recognize that from literally everything that came after.
Yeah.
Like, there's things about it that are like, oh, okay, this is where it came from. This is what other people were referencing. And
yeah. My
So
exposure to Dune has been primarily through these films. Apparently my dad read the book way back when I was talking about the movie. He's like, oh yeah, I read that back in the, I read a lot of books when I'd be flying around and stuff. It's like the stuff you never talk about, Dad.
of course, this also isn't the first attempt at translating it to
No,
film.
they had the
and all the
movie in the
previous
80s.
ones were not good. So this is the best of the bad, at least.
It's good. It's just not as good as it could have been.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And sometimes, when your benchmark is great, good is disappointing.
Yeah.
There's several, series, and, where it's everything up until this point has been great, this recent thing has been good, and that's why it's the least best.
Yep.
And that isn't to say greatness shouldn't always be aspired, and, if you can achieve greatness every time you do a thing,
Yeah.
that's great. But, also, it's funny how good can be very talked down about when great is the benchmark.
I will say though, as cinematic experiences, these two films are top tier.
Oh yeah, and we can get into
Among the best we've seen in an age. Really since the. I mean, honestly, like probably the biggest epic since Lord of the Rings, cinematically speaking. As far as I can remember.
I suppose.
I mean, there's certainly been other like attempts,
Yes,
but nothing that's quite landed.
Well,
I suppose
we've been going.
things.
We've been going a while.
Let's
We
talk
can.
about how it lands.
Truth. What truths can we find in the Dune films? We talked about like sort of good fatherhood.
Fatherhood and sonship.
And love for somebody for themselves, for their own sake, not what they can be to you.
Because I think that's the big source of Shani's frustration with Paul is like, yeah, I thought you were going to stay true to yourself, and I love the person you were trying to be true to, or whatever. Maybe. I don't know. That's it.
Every other relationship in the movie is mired in manipulation and self-gain.
Yep.
And that's even more present in the books. Like, it's all maneuver, it's all intrigue, it's all self-centered, self-serving.
Yeah, everybody is out for themselves and out to use other people, which is a direct contrast to Paul and his father. And his father's just unconditional love and acceptance of his son, no matter what man he grows up to be.
Yep.
And then he loses that connection because his dad is killed in the coup taking over Arrakis, and he needs to carry that vision for him. He wants to stay true to his father's vision of him for him, and his father's vision is him,
Yep.
as opposed to everyone else's vision, which is the chosen one,
The LISAN al-GAIB, the
Exactly.
Qisas Haderach.
right? Exactly. It's all these other things.
Willy Wonka.
So like, there's an element of be true to the man your father loves. Mm-hmm. Like, and in this case, it's like as a Catholic perspective, we are. That's our Heavenly Father. That's God,
Yeah.
right? God has a vision for us, a love for us, and He will love us unconditionally.
You are my beloved son, in whom I am well pleased.
Obviously, we got to be belovable, right?
Yeah.
We got to act
Belovable.
in accordance with His.
We
honor.
respond. We
Yes.
respond to that love.
We respond to that
That's
love.
how that
Yes.
goes. It's
Yes.
not. We don't have to earn that.
We
We
don't
don't have to
earn
be
it.
worthy of that. But it is a thing that engenders a responsiveness.
Yeah.
And
we reciprocate.
in the
We are
way,
moved by that
Yeah.
love into action.
in the way that Paul is moved by the love of his father into action to be the man his father wants him to be, which is authentically himself.
Notably, he flies the banner of House Atreides when he ascends to the leader of the Fremen.
Still wears his father's signet ring.
Yep.
Yeah, the Fremen don't really have colors as such.
Yeah.
They
Brown.
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 House Atreides kind of becomes synonymous with that.
What other truths can we find in Dune Part 1 and 2? Holy war is the only way, mother. Actually, no. But
It's kind of
the film attempts to talk about fundamentalism.
it does, insofar as it does talk
It's
about it. It talks about
it's
it
very Middle East
well.
coded.
perhaps.
Desert planet. I mean, I don't know.
Yeah.
Funny sounding words.
My take on that is like the themes that the book gets at are the power of religious zealotry, which is supposed to be universal in the Fremen context,
Yeah.
and it's sort of separated out in the movie. And the kind of the inevitability of things. And just like Paul feels this crushing weight of the universe is just rocketing this direction, and I am the only force that stands between it and utter annihilation.
And like you've got a world full of people who have their own ideologies, their own goals, and they're willing to manipulate and step on anybody to get their way. This conflict is inevitable. Destructive, death-filled conflict.
Politics
is inevitable.
versus religion.
Politics and religion. The real power of combining those things under one banner.
Oh yeah.
That's the main discourse that Frank Herbert wants to provide, is like the perfect storm of political power,
And
religious
fervor.
intrigue, and whatever the Bene Gesserit is, like
Yeah.
the sort of
There's kind of Illuminati behind the scenes,
yeah.
putting people together and saying, now kith.
all of that together being an unstoppable force.
Yep.
And that's kind of a thing that Frank Herbert wants to explore, which is interesting. Like,
yeah. Because that's sort of, those were like the three pillars of society in Christendom. for a
and
very
the
long time.
way one of the driving forces of fascism in a perverted way, like
Yeah.
all of the Nazi regime
Yeah, like the sort of
operates on
mythology
by
that
control
they
of
crafted.
those things.
The mythology they crafted of like the Ubermensch and how they were like it was sort of a pseudo religion that Hitler created.
Self-awarely
personality,
atheistic pseudo-religion.
Yes, yeah. To a certain extent, like Mussolini too, like he sort of created like this vision of like a second Rome, you know, that sort of thing.
And there's a reference that Paul makes in the book. He's like, you know, all those Hitler and Genghis Khan, and all, like, they're nothing compared to me.
Yeah,
After he's done what he's done, it's like those guys
The
blip
millions
on
that
the radar
yeah,
compared to what I've done, and like having to live with that. It's a tough
Heavy
thing.
lies the crown on the head of the king or whatever. I don't know.
So, is that truth?
Yeah, goodness.
I think that covers the basis on truth.
Goodness. Again, Leto Atreides, we've belabored that point, but a very good thing.
He's kind of the primary source of goodness in this story,
The real,
because everything else is kind of messed up.
yeah, that's true. Honestly,
Like there's the community of the people, the Fremen, the people in the desert.
yeah,
Right? There's this bond of like brotherhood. They're more than
they have like this
they're a
tradition
tribe,
when
right?
somebody dies, they release their water into a great pool that they would never drink of, even if they are dying of thirst, out of like reverence for the dead. So that's kind of a cool thing.
It's like the water is the symbol of life, which
Yep.
it has been for all of human history. But it's like even more belabored of a point here because it's
Yeah.
a desert planet.
Very poignant and prescient.
So
I don't know about pressure.
Okay, poignant and stark. I don't know. My usually large,
Typically glib
vocabularies-
tongue.
Yes, is failing me in these moments.
the point is, it's a good image. It's a
Yeah.
really well.
Good job.
Good job.
Yeah,
You did good. You did good. Good job.
Yeah, that's really about it. In terms
Of course,
goodness.
there's Paul himself. and
Yeah,
what
I
he
suppose. It's
tries
Duncan,
to be.
Duncan and
Right.
Gurney, and
Yeah,
kind
Duncan
of
and Gurney.
the
Dun-
relationships within House Atreides.
Yeah, my boy.
They're very much driven by
My
loyalty.
boy.
Like there's stuff in the books, like they do stuff they don't want to do. They do stuff they think is wrong because
Duncan is a great and mighty warrior, and he sacrifices his life to save Paul and his mother. Like, sort of glossed over that point.
and again
Yeah, well,
and again and
Yeah.
again and again.
And
Spoilers.
Gurney, his father's great general, shares in Paul's great desire to like avenge his father's death and the destruction of Atreides, and is a very loyal servant of the house.
funny how all the characters with integrity and goodness are related to Paul's father.
I recognize your footsteps, old man.
Yep. He's kind of the source of anything good in Dune.
Yeah. He's a good father.
That's who he
That
is.
hurt to say. Beauty.
like, the tone very nicely.
Yeah.
Like Arrakis is a character as much
Yeah.
as any other character.
This
in the
movie plays around. These films play around with color. There were multiple moments in the movie where I was just watching and I was like, this kicks a lot of butt. This is pretty sick.
all the warm oranges when you're in the sand, when you're in like the caves. There's like a lot
It's just
of
like
darker
black and
hues.
white in like the big Harkonnen.
Yeah,
like,
the Harkonnen world's black and white.
Yeah.
So
this whole thing and
it plays with color really nicely, and there's very clear color
the
language
score,
with what
the
represents
cinematography, the
what
acting.
represents what.
Just big things, just
Yeah.
unfathomably large constructs.
Ornithopters, those little helicopter things.
Yeah, the dragonfly helicopters, super cool.
The personal shields that sometimes don't make any sense, but
That's one of those suspension of disbelief things.
well, like in concept it makes sense, but it's like, wait, hold on. So were none of the Atreides people wearing this? And I'm pretty sure I saw that guy stab a guy pretty fast and it killed him. So I thought it was supposed
It's
to only
really
allow, like,
hard
slow
to
things.
film that
Yeah.
the style of combat such
It's
as
hard
it
to keep
would
that
be
consistent.
under those premises.
So
You'd
that's
have
a
to
big choice.
like there's no like you can't choreograph anything.
Because that's just not like there's no real physical like analog to that you'd be able to.
You would have to, the weighting of the blades has to be different. Like
yeah.
you couldn't make any fun action because it would just be people going.
Yep. Although there are like beats where they do hold true to that logic. Like there's a scene where like Shawnee shoots a rocket at like the Harkonnen ornithopter or something, and you see it like slowly working its way through the shield to explode. Like, ooh, that's a cool moment. I love that. Special effects in this film are great.
Oh, yeah.
Cinematography's great. Acting's great. The writing, for all of our disagreements with it,
It was cohesive with itself.
yeah, yeah. Villeneuve is a very good director. I've kind of worked my way through a fair number of his films at this point. Now that I think
Oh, really?
because he did the Sicario films. I know there was at least one other film we watched that had Denis as the director. What was it? Anyway, yeah.
Arrival is the one.
Arrival.
yes.
Yeah, that was the other one.
That's one we've done on the podcast. Check that out.
And then the sandworms are really well like
You look into their throat and it moves like an actual throat, which must have been a nightmare to animate.
yeah.
Like there's I think I saw like a behind the scenes thing where apparently they put a camera down in like a beatboxer's throat and had him like do a bunch of like weird like beatboxer noises
that's
to
right.
get that kind of weird undulating movement
So
and use that as reference. So it's like just really, really well done. Like they looked believable for, which is weird to say about
the little
like
desert
40
mouse, the Mudib.
Oh yeah, and the way the light scatters through the ear of that thing. It's like
Yeah.
all
The
the
water
little details,
droplets
like
and-
so well animated. Like this, there are the special effects that like CG has come so far, and yet it
But
still
it's
kind of
used
looks
so strategically
cartoonishly.
and so well. Like the scenes at the beginning of the second movie where those
Yeah.
guys had like the hover packs or whatever. Like, oh man, that was just such a well executed.
It's like there's
the lasers
this.
are like these long actual like beams of light that look like they could slice through something.
It's like it's restrained enough that it doesn't look like a cartoon the way
Yeah.
that some late generation Marvel movies end up looking.
Yep, there's physics to the world
right.
that are tangible to you
And
as the audience,
The lighting is always believable. It's just so good. It's just
but still stylized and like artistic and all. Yeah, hopefully you were fortunate enough to watch this in theater. If not, it is still going to be a good.
It's
film to
eyeball
watch.
candy.
Yeah,
If you could watch it
and
on
not
mute.
like in a Transformers way. It's like genuinely beautiful to look at.
Right. It's not flashing colors and explosions. It's like, oh, this is art.
Though there is some of that.
There is some of
There
that,
is,
but not
obviously.
like not just constant dopamine. Bleh,
But there's like, pause it, take that screenshot, print it out, hang it on a wall.
Scratch that, reverse it.
Okay.
So we could sing Dune's praises, the two films' praises in terms of their visual execution and auditory execution. Hans Zimmer, he is one of the more prolific composers of our time. Over Easter, I had like a bit going where I was just like going through his IMDb and like listing off recognizable movies. The conversation moved on for like 5 minutes, and every once in a while I would just pipe in with just the name of a movie. And like 10 minutes later, I'm like, "Are you still on this?" I was like, "Yes, I am." Anyway,
Does good work.
Unity. What brings it all together? LISAN, guy.
The thing that brings Dune together in my mind is the perfect storm. The prescience, the political power, the religious zealotry, all combined into one unstoppable force.
All combined into Paul himself.
Right.
He personifies these things.
And like thematically, there's that father-son relationship where there's all these pressures to push him every which way, and it may be inevitable. It may be things other people are telling him to do, but ultimately it is his choice. He does choose to become the Messiah character.
He could have chosen not to.
He could
Yeah.
have.
The universe would be worse off for it.
So like ultimately, this is him making his most informed choice and making the decision to know this is what I want to be.
The film isn't like, it's not just, the universe isn't just deterministic. Like, there's still choice involved. Sure, there are things outside your control.
And yet the pressure of it feeling deterministic is something he struggles with frequently.
Yeah.
It's like, no matter what I do, it's just going to end up this way.
Yeah.
So there's a sort of internal struggle with that, but yeah.
Cool.
The storm.
That's my mom's calling me again, so we should probably wrap this up.
All right. Well, where can they find us? They can find us where we're watching us or listening to us.
Yeah,
obviously.
YouTube. Subscribe on YouTube. Like, subscribe, share, all that good stuff. We're on Twitter at Palapapus, and we're on Spotify as well and Apple Podcasts. So follow us. You can listen to the backlog as that comes out on YouTube, and all the episodes are on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. So thanks for listening, and we'll be back in the next episode whenever that happens. Bye.
Bye.
See ya.